organizational credibility and strategic patience.
Wow, let that sink in. Just
Yeah,
think
let that
about
sink in
that.
for a second. Now I know why I failed as a BPM COE lead. I have no patience.
Patience, but you have to have strategic
Yeah,
patience.
strategic. That's even worse.
What is that? The other one, I like the other one though, the organizational credibility.
Credibility. Yeah.
So it doesn't. So at some time in your life, you had to show that you had organizational skills.
Yeah. But it gets better though. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the BPM 360 podcast. My name's Caspar, your host, and with me is, as always, my friend and co-host, Russell. Russell, welcome back from vacation. How are you?
Thanks a lot. Yes, I'm great. I'm fully vacated. Let's see how long we got. And I had a bit of a sore throat because spending so much time outside, and it was brilliant weather, but always quite windy. And then
Yeah.
you go out, it's sunshine, you see all the English people in shorts, so you think you have to wear. It's okay to wear a t-shirt, and then I got a bit of a cold on my bit of a sore throat. And
All right.
that's why today, being back in Germany, I just it was raining heavily as we got back, and today I've done a real lazy day and just.
Oh, very good. Now let's see if your voice will manage these next, let's say, 45 minutes, and we can treat our audience to another just you and me session talking about BPM roles.
Cool.
Because we have part 5 today, maybe even part 6. I lost track of count. I think it's even part 6. But anyway, let me just do a quick recap to make sure that our listeners who maybe missed some of the previous episodes on what is that we talked about. And I think the biggest thing to realize is we talked about the first 5 roles were all about roles in the implementation phase of the project. So you've taken a decision to implement the principles behind BPM. And then you need a couple of roles to make sure that you actually implement that. And the first 5 roles that Russell, that you and me talked about, and actually I think we generated quite some interactivity with that with our audience, which I really like, is the BPM program sponsor, so the executive sponsor, so to speak. We talked about the BPM program manager, so the guy or girl or woman leading the project, the implementation project, and that will be a segue. I'll come back to that one because it might be a segue into today's role. Then we talked about the business process architect, so around the modeling and the architecture part. We talked about the change management lead. I think that was a really interesting one, and we're going to have a guest on that one somewhere later this year. Well, in a couple of weeks, I think, that really understands what change management actually means. And then we talked about, finally, the last role we did was the process mining and analysis specialist. So those are the 5 roles we've done. And today...
And the last one was a good bridge, because there we were discussing a lot. Is that actually a part of the implementations crew, or is that somebody who comes later? And that's why, just for the understanding of the audience, it's this looking at the roles from the initiation and versus the let's say the steady state or the implemented roles. I think that's very interesting anyway, because you come from, you say it's like a journey, but every journey you have to start off by ramping up a program. And of course, a lot of these roles transcend, or the people that are taken up these roles, they transcend into other roles in the steady state. And that's so not that there's too much confusion about, how many roles do you need for BPM? Our organization doesn't even have so many people, but of course we are looking at different use cases, different stages of the journey in direction of maturity, and how there is a certain transcendence between these roles.
Yeah. And that's a valid point. And just to add on to that a little bit, there is no clear cut black and white boundary between an implementation phase and the running business phase, because they will exist in parallel for a while. So at the moment that you basically publish your first process model, your process documentation, you also go into business as usual mode for that process. So you will see quite a big of an overlap between the different roles in both the implementation phase and the running business phase. But let me bring that back to today's topic. I talked about the BPM program manager, so the person running the implementation phase. And in many cases, I would say that person also becomes the role that we're going to be talking about today, which is, little drum roll, the COE lead or the head of process excellence. It's whatever you want to call it. But it's the person leading the center of excellence around your BPM initiative. Any surprises there, Russell? I'm gonna give you the background of the role, but
that's more the surprise that always comes on what our
so let me
all-knowing friend has to say to this.
So let's do that then. So the short description, let's start there, is the BPM COE lead or the head of process excellence leads the permanent center of excellence, setting its strategic agenda, managing its team, and acting as the internal champion for process discipline across the organization. All right, so there's nothing spectacularly surprising there. The first thing is the character traits. So as you know, and if this is the first role episode you hear from us, we will always typically take 2 character traits that the role needs to have and the required experience. So character traits, Russell, here we go. Organizational credibility and strategic patience.
And that's I wow, let that sink in. Just
let that sink in for a second. Now I know why I failed as a BPM COE lead. I have no patience.
No, you don't patience, but you have to have strategic patience.
Yeah, strategic. That's even worse.
So what is that? And the other one, I like the other one though, the organizational credibility. So it doesn't. So at some time in your life, you had to show that you had organizational skills.
Yeah, but it gets better though. So the character traits move on. So building a COE that people actually come to for help. I think the word actually is really good here. Rather than view as a compliance function, takes years and requires someone with the gravitas and persistence to keep driving value. I think that sentence has like everything in it.
Wow. So that's somebody who, as a German says, so you have to be really stubborn.
Yeah. Yes, but you still need to be flexible, I think. Oh God, yeah.
And credible. And so the strategic patience plays out there as well. So that's what they say. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, this is it. The main point I would point out here is okay. So the project manager, and that's where. So how can you transcend from the role of a program manager who thinks about getting his project done in time on budget. That's the thinking of there. Yeah, let's get this done. I've got this budget. I've got to get it done. Got to ramp it up. Got to get these nominations out. Got to get this sign off. And then you said, it's established. But we have now the long game. So it's like you have a project manager to build a boat, in time and budget, and then he jumps on the boat and says, "Okay, now we're sailing twice around the world, and we don't more or less where we're heading, but we got to be really patient." And so don't start planning too long term. But don't plan super long term, but don't let's see how this works out. Let's just set sailing and really stick to what our merits and what we do best, and have people come to you. So there's a switch here that I see also in reality. And this. So not that we want to talk about the role more in itself, but just on this phase of going into the out of the implementation, it has a certain, it's observed. There's a certain like movement to it. There's, there's something happening. And then, all of a sudden, you get into that phase where things just take time. And a lot of frustration comes up. There's pushbacks, budget cuts, all this thing. And we're talking about several years of actually best case sticking to this role and making slow but surely a progress on establishing the community and all this. So there cannot be a bigger difference in how I would say your mental skill set. Yeah. On the one hand, have this urge to drive things forward fast, get them done.
Yeah.
And then going to a phase where you have to harvest long term. Yeah. So you really, it's like, I've got a good example. So you're going out there, you conquer a country, a field, and then get everybody to help you plant olive trees.
Okay.
And then you got the olive trees all set up, and they said, I'm done with the project. I've got my olive trees planted.
Okay.
Now, what do I do now? It says, well, now you have to take care of these olive trees for 25 years before you can harvest the first olives.
Does that take 25 years?
I think it takes absurdly long. Maybe it's 5.
Blimey, I didn't know that. But anyway, go on.
Google. Anyway, check it out. Ask ChatGPT. He knows it all.
Yeah, you keep talking. I'll Google.
But we're not talking about, say, you're doing a field where you're harvesting every half a year. We're talking about something that can take several years.
Yeah. Okay.
So and that for the actual role is, I think, the biggest challenge. And that's something where maybe. Well, yeah, it's something where you say, okay, but maybe it's like bringing a baby to birth. That's also a project of 9 months. And then you have to transcend into this person that doesn't mind that he has to struggle the next 20 years until he gets the kid out of the house again. So maybe the human nature is used to some things like that as well. So
that's interesting. And by the way, a little fact check: you weren't off very much, but the first real harvest from olives is typically between 5 to 10 years.
Oh, 5 to 10 years.
It can be earlier, but that's typically not considered a good harvest.
Yeah.
But I really love that, and I think I just like to add to that, because you and I, we both work with a lot of different organizations on trying to establish a BPM practice, right? I mean, I ran one. I do see things back that I did wrong pretty much then. And I see a lot of my clients, and some are really good examples of how to do it. And and you see these traits coming back. But I think that the strategic patience and the relentless drive for value is one. But the organizational credibility, I always underestimated that one. Because, and this is also the conversations I'm having internally, my own organization is very often, listen, process management potentially touches your entire organization, period. That means that your group of stakeholders is going to be huge and very diverse. And you can only get this off the ground if, let's say, a ballpark or a bigger portion of those people think you're credible. Otherwise, they will simply, they will chainsaw the chair underneath your ass, and you'll just fall flat on your face.
Yeah. And so this credibility thing, I mean, and I think establishing the credibility during the implementation phase is, of course, a key for this person to then be able to sustain based on this. That's why maybe this organizational credibility. Yeah. So and then so they've shown that they can get it done and set it all up. But then it's the long game of actually strategically being patient on and then keeping the stakeholders at stake. That's what I think is one of the key points there. And I think you have to have this certain, I don't know if that was mentioned there, a certain amount of flexibility, because I said at the beginning, you have to be stubborn. Now, I think that's not quite right. If you take it as, this is the way I'm going to go, the path I'm going to go, I'm just going to be, I'm going to stick to it. It's going to work out. That's not the way. That's what I meant.
Wrong stubbornness.
I meant that I'm going to manage to get around the world twice with this boat somehow. That mental mindset has to be there, but you have to think day to day. So I think that you have to be open to say, okay, this isn't working out. Yeah. I don't know. Which diversion can we do? Which workaround can we do? What initiative can we pull forward? Where can we prove value? Who can I pull in? Who can I talk to? So I think this real, as I said, stubbornness on patience. Yeah, strategic patience. Good word.
Yeah, it's
good term. But has to be combined with a day-to-day it urges. Well, now I'm saying agility to make progress every day, bit by bit, and think about it in what can we do today? Although it's going to take years, what can I do today just to get that little bit step forward? I think that's which is a great character skill set for a lot of roles. But I think with process management, that is one thing. And I recall the session we had with Corinna Frank.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was really early on.
Yeah, that was really early on. And then we asked her, what are your superpowers? And it was exactly, I mean, she said it was her
yeah, that's true.
She was talking about her strategic impatience.
Oh, we need to make sure that we shout her out in the show notes, Russell, because that was one of our first guests. I think that was really great.
And she is of course somebody who initially set up the BPM program at Phoenix, and now 20 years plus is still at it as the head of COE.
So I think the subtitle for this episode is going to be that the BPM COE lead is a organizational credible pragmatist with strategic patience.
Yeah.
Means that's what you just basically described. So there's also a section called required experience. Let's go into that one as well. And then no surprises, by the way. So prior hands-on experience in BPM implementation, combined with people management and internal consulting skills. Experience managing an internal center of excellence or shared service is highly valuable. So in other words, somebody who already did this and has a good internal consulting skills, meaning you can sell this internally. Because that's what you do. I think this is slightly what I expected it to be. And of course, it's easier if you've already done it before.
Yeah, so maybe it's a bit obvious, but let's talk about one thing about these organizational setups. But I think it's around process management is interesting to see that for a head of COE, you have to be your best consultant. So whereas other organizations and other light setups, well, maybe you would say, nah, but I don't need to know the details. I don't need to know the concepts on a level that I can actually consult and advise on that. And I think, and that's one thing I do like about process management, where I think, no, that's not the case. It's not enough just to manage or to manage the managers who then have consultants who consult. No, I think maybe that's valid for a lot of other disciplines. Risk management, for example, or compliance management. Maybe it's similar there as well, but I think especially for process management, you have to be able to conceptually advise on a various levels on the principles and the value and the methodology around process management. So from a top level management, from a C level, asking, how could we, how could process management help me achieve strategic goals and get something or get an initiative back on track? How could you create value there? Down to the level of just let's say a day-to-day question from your employees around, what are we going to do here? How are we going to go about this? So I think this is definitely something which is definitely needs a lot of experience as well, but definitely a lot of it's more than just experience.
What you're basically describing is that a BPM COE lead needs to have an enormous amount of breadth and width in its experience. You need to cover an enormously varied field of different topics. Because if you think back, so now I'm going to take you back even further than the one with Corinna Frank. Let's think about the 4 success criteria that we talked about in episodes 1 to 12 of our first season, Russell. It's you need to have an executive sponsor and stakeholder management. Stakeholder management is something that you need to be able to do. It's a skill, right? That's what the BPM COE lead needs to be doing. Then there is the topic around governance. So the person needs to have an in-depth knowledge about how does a good process governance look like? How do we want to structure our process hierarchy? Are we going to be using process classification? Are we going to set up management of change? Most of the organization will look to your BPM COE lead. How do I get into that lead question? Oh, hey, lead.
I thought you were going to say dude.
No. It's Sunday evening tonight when we record. But anyway, the COE lead, they're looking to him or her for guidance. And if that's not enough, then you go into the third success factor, which is, we call that the COE, but it's about the tooling and the method and the conventions. He needs to have that as well. And then you have the human affairs, the change management, the people skills, and saying, do you know a lot about communication that you could potentially outsource? But the change management part and setting up your own team and building them, I mean, that's a wide array of skills that you need to have. And I think this is pretty much generic for any COE lead, but the BPM field happens to be really, really wide and varied.
Yeah,
Any thoughts on that?
Well, you were listing them up, and I could imagine that you're absolutely right. Which ones? I was just thinking, which ones could you outsource best? Yeah, and I still think that the tool competence in depth, that's something you should be able to outsource to a team. Or your team to get people that you trust. And with them, you have to actually convey better what do they up there want to achieve and communicate to your, let's say, process owners who are complaining, says this is all too complicated. Or to some other stakeholder says, we have a new how can I get my risks managed? On that level, they have to communicate and then get down and say, yes, but we can do that with the tool. Yes, you could, but the way you're doing it to the tool is too complicated for these people. So I think facilitating this debate and discussion, so the communication skills, the stakeholder management skills, but always having this very, very deep core understanding on the, as you said, this framework that we will talk through the first 12 episodes. That the key concepts and of this framework, they have to sit really deep. So every time something happens about a role, they can reflect against the method, the conventions, and the tool. Vice versa, if something happens with the tool, they have this understanding for how this is impacting maybe the way they've set up their conventions and how it will impact the users or the modelers. So I think they really have to have this all ingrained, and more than, as I said, they are the head of Center of Excellence, so they are the person of excellence on that level to actually keep the team together, and on a long term, always to sustain the momentum. Momentum, that was the word I was looking for earlier.
Momentum. Oh, that's
momentum.
Cool. Yeah, that's a nice word as well. And I think even if you look back into your experience, Russell, and all the dealings you've had with customers, and I do the same thing, you will be able to just pick out like 3, 4, 5 people that basically embody all of what we've talked about. And they all have the same traits. They are doers who know their way around the organization. And their level of BPM knowledge might vary slightly, but they still manage to pull it off because they simply know, this is what I want to achieve with this. This is how I break it down. And this is how I influence my internal organization in such a degree that I actually get to that finish line. But I still want to challenge, not challenge you, but I want to make things more complicated, Russell. Until now, it's too easy. We said that the BPM program manager might transfer into the COE lead role, right? We talked about that. If I think about that in light of what we're seeing right now, is that, yes, I do see overlap between the traits and the characteristics that you need to implement something, but there are also a couple of traits that might be slightly different in running and let's say continuously develop a COE for BPM. So sometimes I wonder, can it be one and the same person?
Mm. Well, what I've seen, this is true for other projects as well. You nominate a project manager or the program manager,
Mm-hmm.
and he takes up the job very enthusiastic because he sees this as a chance for his career to get established with this department, with this
Mm-hmm.
discipline on a certain level. So it's definitely an opportunity to step up and create a baseline for your further career. And that
Mm-hmm.
is a motivation for this project phase and to really get engaged there. But they
Mm-hmm.
already have the long game in their head. So they know this is
Mm-hmm.
now the ramp up phase, the initiative. I have to, put the real create momentum,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes into this phase. Now, this is something I see quite often.
Okay.
And again, the big challenge is, how do they really honestly understand how long the long game is?
Oh,
So,
that's a good one. Yeah.
and after all this excitement of the initiation phase, when you get down to the daily business, but and here I think if you see, maybe this is something, I'm not going to say any names, but I think you'll come to mind. So maybe after a certain phase, you say, let's say a head of center of excellence, and he then continues to do it, say, for 2 or 3 years. Let's say, let's
Mm-hmm.
say 5 years until the olives start. By the way, the story about the olive trees came from old Greek history when people wanted to, what's it called, when they took over the land, they would just
Yeah,
cut
yeah.
down olive trees and they would take ages for them to grow again. But of course, the olive trees you cut down, they had, of course, much more fruit than little olive trees after 5 years. So I think it's
Yeah, of course. Of
until
course.
you harvest at that same amount. I think we are talking about 20
Oh,
years.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
probably.
so what do you see, I think, with these people that are very ambitious and they're very good at doing the projects, and then they run into the established initiative for, let's say, 3 years, let's say, they will start maybe then seeing, oh, this is a real long game. This is, I this is not really my game. And they look for another initiative, or they
Yeah.
change the company and go to another company that also want to establish BPM.
Yeah.
Maybe with the hope that then the let's say the rollout and the momentum is just higher and the relevance is higher than at
Mm-hmm.
the company, where after 2-3 years maybe got bogged down a bit and everything
Yeah.
starts too slow. So I've seen that a lot as well, where people take up to do fantastic initiatives, have a lot of motivation and momentum in the first, let's say, couple of years, and then they see, oh, this is getting tough, and it's getting a bit of a routine job. But these are
Yeah.
the people, I think they're all more on the side of macher, doers,
Yeah, yeah.
and for them, I think they're good to move on and to take that experience and kick off another initiative somewhere
True.
in a bigger company, maybe with a more challenging set of use cases to be implemented, and then they can maybe they will stay there then longer than 5 years, but maybe also again they will do the implementation and see, now this is not for me. The head of the COE. Nah, I'm looking for the adventure. I'm looking for the
Yeah,
next.
yeah. Well,
And then then
that's an
something
interesting one.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and here, let me just add to that a little bit. I mean, the reason why I think this is interesting is what we're describing here is basically sort of a scale, right? Where you have the real program manager with the thirst for adventure and the excitement of starting up an initiative on the one hand side, and then the somewhat more, I would call it, repetitive work of running a center of excellence on the other hand. And as much as I agree with you that some persons are better in setting up things and creating things, and then once it's stable, they need to move on again. I think that if you really want to have a good COE lead, that one needs to be somewhere hovering around the middle of that spectrum, trending a little bit to the, let's say, running the repetitive running of this center of excellence. I don't think it should be completely on that other side of the spectrum, because then you're not developing anything anymore. Because you still would need, even a COE for BPM, you need to reinvent yourself every 18 to 24 months for the organization to keep believing that you're still relevant.
That's a good point. And I mean, again, we're coming from ideal states of organization down to the reality that we often see. Now, there's another aspect I see with companies. So one of them, as I said, we've seen people like that do the initiative, go into this and do the long game, the ideal transition, and they keep on to it. And there's always something new to do. So there's always, there's always a certain amount of buzziness around what's happening, so everybody's happy. Well, let's say more or less happy. Now, then there's the people that they lack the momentum, and as soon as it slumps, they move on because they just need more the adventure, and then you will find people that just continue, say, the good work or the foundation that has been set, and continue to grow there. And if you put somebody in place that still has the ambition to harvest and grow this community, it's good. What's not good is somebody says, let's just maintain the status quo. I mean, that's something, if somebody's just put in there as a placeholder, welcome back from your sabbatical. We got this role often because the ambitious guys left us. Do you want to take over this role? Yeah, actually, there's nothing else for you to do, so let's just live with it. and then we have the BPM initiative on hold for some time until that could also happen. But there's another scenario, where this is something I see where. And after, say, something like 10 years of BPM established, ingrained, more or less on a good level, not all use cases and everything super duper, but there is a wide, the whole community is stable. So stable in the sense of there's people going out, but there's people onboarded. But there is ingrained knowledge of and culture around process management. Now, when you start getting into that phase, then the head of COE in that context becomes dispensable. Not indispensable. He becomes dispensable, or she becomes dispensable and then it's sufficient to have a manager. In the sense of a manager, the human resource. Oh, you want a holiday? Okay. Have you checked? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here's your holiday. Oh, you want a salary wise? Yes, I've only got 2% budget to give you. One of them people. And because it's ingrained in the organization, and that's actually where now you would say, wow, is that the ideal state? Now I'm going, well, actually, no, but yes, because principally, if
make up your mind,
because if you've brought your organization to that level that you, as a head of COE, the organizational credibility and the in-depth knowledge on all concepts, have managed to bring that it's so far into the organization that you become dispensable. Wow, then you've done everything right.
Yeah, absolutely true. And just to add on to that a little bit, whenever I go into a new client, I have a little checklist that contains 50 questions. And basically they're 50 best practices disguised as questions. Just food for thought. It's nothing formal. It's just a checklist that I have, and I typically share with my customers. Listen, take a look at this and just go yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And one of the questions at the very bottom, which is in the human affairs part, is actually, do you have career path for process management type of roles in your organization? And let me explain that. So when I started working a long, long time ago, I ended up in a manufacturing company. At that point in time, they were doing chemical manufacturing. And they had what they called, they had management development programs, but they also had a career path framework based on HR And it would basically say, if you have the ambition to become a supply chain manager, then you start off as an inventory planner, or you go into this demand chain planner role, and then you go into a uh, warehouse manager's role, and you go into production scheduling role, and then you go up and left and right and up until you get to that the peak where you want to end up, the supply chain manager role, and then you can become VP of supply chain, whatever. I very rarely I come into contact with companies that do this as well on a process management level. It is still very often seen, I would say, as I wouldn't say commodity, but as a shared service type of activity that you can bolt on to your organization. While I think you and I will agree that if you want to do process management really well, it needs to be integrated into every little blood vein of your organization.
Absolutely. And that organization, I was thinking about where they are, the maturity and the process management is so well established that it is like a common practice within the organization. I think they have these career paths. I'll double check,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah,
sure you see in the job descriptions when they're looking for somebody to come into this role, that you see it's like, there is they know how to get a junior, or let's say somebody
yeah.
who's doing an apprenticeship there, as up to that level that they become a process manager. So it is, I'm going to cross check that, because that's first of all, it's a super, let's say, check to say, how far are
Yeah,
you on that level
yeah,
of maturity? And I think it fits very good to what I was actually also saying. As soon as you've got it so far, your roles, your operational process management roles so well established in your organization, in the culture of the company, that you even have job descriptions and career paths,
yeah.
then you are then this what we were talking about, this head of COE doesn't have to have all those skills as
No.
as as we mentioned at the beginning. However, just one
Yeah.
one thought there. This is then a steady state. It's a status quo, and
Hmm.
everybody's working on excellence. But as soon as disruption happens,
Okay.
then there is somebody missing. Because I think this
Oh.
system you get into a state where everything's fine. Everybody's doing, let's
Hmm.
say, Lean Six Sigma, process excellence, DMARC, or whatever, some method that
Yeah.
they've established it. They have it in their career path. The
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
onboarding of every person is, talk about process management at this. Disruption will cause the necessity to rethink the way they have established process management, not just from an organizational, from a career, from a methodology, from a tool, from a use case perspective. Everything
Hmm.
can be put on in question and can be disrupted. And then this system, I doubt, will be able to regroup, reform in a structured manner. Now you could say, yeah, but that's a new initiative. Now we need to go back to the BPM program manager and
Hmm.
who takes up this disruption. But that would typically be the job of this head of center of excellence, to be able to react with his knowledge, yeah, to be able to
Hmm.
react to this ultimately change of situation that has
Yeah.
to be dealt with. And that's where
Hmm.
he could then lead. He would be then the lead. He would be then the people that will come to him and says, "Oh my God, what are we could do now? The house is burning. Yeah,
Yeah.
what do we
Yeah.
do?"
Yeah.
And this is where this person would then be able to shine, bring his guidance, the lead, and he would be the man on the captain,
Hmm.
ship sinking. Everybody's got scoreboard, and he's saying, never mind, I'm gonna think of something. I've
Yeah.
come up with an idea. Just give me 5 minutes, and then they have this idea due to his experience and whatever comes into it.
Yeah.
So maturity, steady state is good, principally dispensable, but if something disrupts this steady state of process management organization, then you will need this head of COE again to be able to
Yeah.
pull
True.
things together and give it you new momentum, new direction.
A bit like Hannibal from the A Team.
Yeah.
We probably need to explain that to a lot of people, but I'm not. You just can look it up. We have Google for that and ChatGPT. But yeah, it's like that. Wonderful, wonderful. And we need to start thinking about wrapping this one up today, Russell. I think that was a interesting conversation, and we can probably talk hours on this. And the thought I just had, Russell, is we're gonna find one of these heads of COEs in our network and drag them onto the show.
Yes,
and maybe and yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Yes, and I actually already have somebody in mind. I'll tell you after. I'm not going to do a shout out now.
No, that's fine. It
would be good then to see in how far these different, like, say, were you the person that said, it's losing momentum, I'm going to move on?
Well,
so when they go through their career path, is it'll be at which phase did you see yourself as a program manager? How did you feel about that the transcending, and how did you get used to it? And we'll take what we theoretically, maybe a bit based on our experience, have thought up at the different aspects of this. And we haven't gone too much in depth on in detail every skill and job position and how much time does it take. But it's more big of the bigger picture on how this fits into these initiatives, how you see them in real life. And I hope also some of the people in the audience, I mean, if somebody maybe is out there listening and wants to volunteer to challenge us and say that's complete BS that you've been talking. In my position, this and this happened. But maybe there's somebody out there that's listening is going, yeah, I could tell you exactly that happened to me in this job, and this happened to me in this job, and actually, there's different aspects that happen here. So maybe just a real life check against what we've been talking about here with somebody out there.
That would be good. Yeah, and we're trying to get another one on the show already for a while that I know implemented it, ran it, and now implementing it in another organization. So
I think you're talking. Do you think
we're talking about the same thing? I think,
we're talking about the same person. I think we're talking about the same person.
I think we're talking about the same person, but we'll check that after we stop the recording. So before we go,
who's next?
The next role we're going to do, by the way, so if you want to know, is the process owner. GPO. Yeah. We need to set aside some time for that one, Russell.
I think all the audience has been waiting all the time, because typically when you talk about roles in BPM, everybody starts and finishes talking about the process owner.
Yes.
So that we have taken, we've really, this has been the cliffhanger for.
Shit, we're doing it too early then. It should be number 10.
No.
No, so that's the one that we're going to do next.
Okay.
Two little shout outs before we leave. They have nothing to do with the COE lead, by the way.
Okay.
The first one is for people who are interested in process management. At somewhere around, and I always forget the dates, but we'll put them in the show notes. I think October or early November, Russell and I will go to the All About Process Management conference in Stuttgart. So I want to do a first quick shout out because
September.
Oh, there you go. So that's less than 6 months from now. You're going to hear us talk about more than that, because we're going to be there as a podcasting duo, trying to figure out what goes on there and record an episode there. And we'll try to get some people behind the mic, Russell. So that's number one. And now I hope I remember number two. Oh yeah, a very little shout out to the Prozessphilosophen, the other BPM podcasting series, one of the others, and they just recently, Russell, joined the Riverside community as well, because I heard them talk about that.
I heard them talk about that yesterday on the car back from holiday, and I said, let's listen to them a bit. And said, Riverside. I said, yeah. But also shout out to them because they did actually take 100 episodes without Riverside.
Oh, absolutely true. Congrats, guys, on that. It's and it's so much fun to have been part of that, because I do remember the one that we did at the All About Process Management conference last year, where I did my first podcast in German. Yes. And I still have my credibility intact, so that's fine.
And the last shout out, somewhere out there, Roland is listening and will be saying, I'm the first one who went to Riverside.
Yes,
and
sir,
I told
he
you
was.
all about it.
He was. Him and JM are absolutely the people we follow on this path. Dear listeners, thank you very much for staying tuned with us today. Hope to see you next time, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.